We're making Potsticker Dumplings. This is a recipe that requires 2 different cooking methods, but it's all done in the one process. These taste absolutely delicious and they're super easy to make, so let's get straight into it. We're going to start off with 200 grams of wombok, which is known as Chinese cabbage and Napa cabbage, and this is going to be very finely shredded, or in culinary terms called chiffonade, and we want this to be extremely thin as it is going for our mix, so we don't want any large chunks. Once you have shredded it up, just give it a wash and drain it off, then add it to a large mixing bowl and add in a big pinch of salt. This is going to extract the moisture from the cabbage, and we can just let this sit for about 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to need 1 clove of garlic and 5 grams of ginger. Both of these can be ran along a microplane, and with the ginger, just split it into 2 different bowls, so 2.5 grams in each bowl. This right here is 100 grams of water chestnuts. They come in a can and in liquid, so I do recommend draining them off, and they're also easy to get. These ones are pre-sliced, but we do want to really finely chop these, and if you're wondering about the taste, it's similar to an apple, a pear, and a coconut, but doesn't taste like any of them, if that makes sense. Next is 3 grams of chives, or about 10 to 12 sprigs. These can be lined up and really finely chopped, and if you're wondering why we're finely chopping everything, is because all of this is for the mix for the pot stickers, and we don't want any chunky pieces. In saying that though, you can use a blender if you don't want to do all this by hand. What I have here is 3 shiitake mushrooms. These can be quite hard to get for some places, and I know they can be expensive as well. If you can't get hold of them, just use button or Swiss brown mushrooms. And again, one last time, just really finely chop these just into that nice fine crumb. Last but not least for the knife work is 1 spring onion or scallion. This is completely optional, so you don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch just to use one. And again, we're just going to really thinly slice this, and this is going to be used in our dipping sauce. Going back to the cabbage that's been in that salt, we can then bunch this up in our hands and squeeze it into a bowl to extract the moisture. You can get rid of that moisture as well, and this will be a lot easier to mix into our pot stickers, as well as adding a little bit of seasoning. As for the filling, add 250 grams of pork or chicken mince into a bowl, along with 10 milliliters of soy sauce for a nice umami flavor, 2.5 milliliters of Chinese rice wine for increased depth, 2.5 milliliters of sesame oil for a nice nutty flavor, 2 grams of corn flour or starch to bind this together, half of that ginger paste that we made earlier for a nice infusion. The cabbage can then go in, obviously that's been now extracted of all that moisture, and then we're going to add in the water chestnuts, the chopped chives, as well as the chopped mushrooms. And like I said before whilst we were prepping everything, the reason that it's all extremely fine is just because we don't want large chunks through this. Last but not least, hit it up with a little bit of ground white pepper to taste. Salt isn't needed as it's in the cabbage as well as soy sauce, and then just mix this around really well until bind it together. Then just pop this aside for the time being. Just before we get cooking, to make the sauce, add 60 milliliters of soy sauce to a mixing bowl for a strong umami flavor, 60 milliliters of Chinese black vinegar, which I'll leave details about in the description, 5 milliliters of sesame oil for that nice nutty flavor, the garlic and half of that ginger that we did at the beginning, and I don't think the garlic came out of the bowl, so I added it in after. And then we're going to add in those spring onions or scallions if you decided to use them. Get in there with a whisk, just mix this all together until combined, making sure to break up the garlic and ginger, and then just place this in the fridge. Now I've got to be honest here, I'm using store-bought wonton wrappers. Of course you can make it yourself if you wanted to, but if you're on your own, you'll be there for absolutely ages just for the amount of effort that it takes rolling them out, weighing the dough, doing all of that type of stuff, and they can go wrong as well, so it's just a lot easier to buy store-bought, and they're really cheap as well. As for these, put one in the palm of your hand, dab around the edges with some cold water. This will activate the flour and make this nice and sticky. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of the filling right in the center and just fold these over and crimp the top so it sticks together. Once you're in this position, you can then fold these however you like. You can literally just fold them as a semicircle if you wanted to, or you can make 3 little pleats like what I'm doing here. And all I'm doing is grabbing one side, pulling back, sticking it down, and then just repeating it 2 more times so you get 3 little crimps on each side. Obviously my fingers are in the way a little bit on the first attempt, but you'll see it a lot better at this angle. So all I'm doing is just pinching it, pulling it back, squeezing down, and then just repeating that 3 times on each side, which will achieve this beautiful little pattern on top. Obviously mine aren't absolutely perfect, and I'm not going to claim to be, and it's been a long time since I've made pot stickers. Anyway, once you have that done, and whatever way you've decided to fold it, just make sure that it has a nice flat bottom, and this recipe will achieve 30 dumplings. Okay, to get these cooking, place a large pan over a medium-high heat, add in 2.5 teaspoons of any neutral flavored oil. I've used peanut oil. Then we're going to add in those dumplings and just do them around in a circle. Just make sure they're not sitting on top of one another. Going to fry these for about 2 minutes, just until that bottom is nice and golden brown. Then we're going to immediately add in 60 milliliters of cold water. Just be careful here because it will splatter and spit back at you. Instantly cover it with a lid, and now these are going to steam and fry at the same time. Gonna cook this for another 2 minutes, just until all of that moisture is evaporated. The dumplings are cooked through, nice and steamed on the top, beautifully golden and crispy on the bottom. Then we can remove it from the stovetop. Serve these up however you want, serve them on plates, in bowls, on nice long platters if you wanted to, just make sure they're nice and well presented. You can add over some spring onion or scallion as a garnish, I like to use the green stems, and also place down that dipping sauce, which makes this the complete dish. This right here is our beautiful pot stickers. They smell fantastic and look absolutely beautiful. Now, just before we get stuck into these, I wanted to quickly stop and say a massive thank you to every single one of you that engages with the channel. We hit 900,000 subscribers the other day, and it feels so unreal to be even close to 1 million, let alone 900,000, and I can't thank you all enough for the love and support. It means the world to me to have you all here with me, sharing my experience, my knowledge, and all of that stuff for good food, and obviously you here on the journey with me to see how far we can go and other avenues we can take. Other than that, thank you so much. Let's then dig in. The thing I love most about pot stickers is the cooking technique. You got the fried and the steamed. It creates the perfect texture, and then when you bite into it, it's super crunchy and then just packed with flavor in the center. That dipping sauce is perfect for it. I recommend serving it with it. Do not skip out on that because it is what makes these absolutely fantastic, and I definitely recommend you try this recipe. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, really does help me out, and consider subscribing. Turn on that bell notification so you never miss when I upload, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.